Good morning and welcome to BeefLink TV, your daily dose of industry information. This morning we're joined by Robert Windsor and we're going to be talking about the latest updates to EU legislation following some recent episodes we've shared on this topic. Firstly, Robert, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, no problems at all.
I understand there's an update in particular, first off, on the EU entry-exit system, which obviously impacts people travelling between the EU and the UK. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yes, I can. This is one thing we've been highlighting. Our world is full of acronyms, and EES is one of them, and that is the entry-exit system, and you're quite correct. It is for people travelling to and from, and I have to emphasise it's non-EU nationals, so the likes of us with British passports or anybody who will be covered by this. One of the things that has sometimes caused confusion is there is something called an ENS, which is a entry summary declaration which covers cargo.
Right.
So you could have a British driver going to Europe, he will need an EES, but the cargo he's carrying is going to need an ENS. So it all gets a bit confusing.
Sure.
Yes, the EES has had quite a long and varied history of delays. I think it was meant to come in initially in 2022. That's 2022. Mm-hmm. And that has been delayed several times. About a month ago, the European Union said it would be coming in on either the 10th or 17th of November. And last week on the 10th, the European Commission met and it has now delayed it further. And this time it seems to be an indefinite delay. Three big players in Europe, France, Holland and Germany, all said they weren't ready. And so basically that's led to the EU deciding to delay. It is possible also that some of the data elements that you are going to be, or were initially going to be required, may not actually now have to be given.
Right. But
we are going to have to see what it is. I mean, our main concern about the EES was basically that although it's predominantly passengers, obviously a British driver of a heavy goods vehicle would have to do it. And so we're concerned about the knock-on effect if there's a delay at, for instance, a terminal such as Dover. For the passenger, that will back up and impact on the movement of cargoes. Where we also have to consider is there is another system, yet another system for Europe, called the ETIAS. Now, that is a system which will permit people to register, and basically that will alleviate the need for them to have a visa to go to Europe. But the EES, as I've always said, has got one other main purpose. It is to actually monitor people, how long they're staying in the Schengen area. Now, you are allowed under EU law to visit the Schengen area 90 days and 180. Now, this is a rolling 90 and 100.
Sure.
So if you are over, if you like, your 90-day allowance, you would not be permitted entry into Europe. It can only be done electronically, to be honest, because I can't imagine people being able to keep a rolling 90 days.
Sure.
We have done a brief article on this in, I think it's November's BeefLink, and so that will just highlight the delay. And I do emphasise the important thing about this delay is there is no new time frame given, which implies that actually there's quite significant problems.
Sure. And so that's everything to do with EES and the others. And I understand we've also got some changes we need to talk about in relating to EUDR.
Right, okay, let's explain what EUDR is.
Let's start with that.
I think that's a good one. It's the European Union Deforestation Regulation. Now, as we all know, environmental issues are becoming more and more important. And one of the problems that we're having is where people are saying, oh, we'll move this or that and we'll do it over there. Now, one of the knock-on effects is that the this is leading, particularly with certain industries, the industry being located in environmentally sensitive areas such as, for instance, the Amazonian rainforest, and large areas are being deforested very quickly. I saw some figures the other day that in the last decade, the Amazon rainforest has lost an area the size of Wales.
Wow.
But there again, you see another set of stats which makes it even worse, but it's significant. Now, there are certain commodities which have been highlighted, and there's 7, and it's things like the growing of soy, the vegetable sort of thing, raising of cattle and leather, and certain mineral extraction. Now, the European directive on this matter actually had required the supply chain, and it's complex now because this will mean all companies will have to keep track on where maybe raw materials originated from, turned into manufactured items, and then maybe if they're only a component, going into a finished article. So if you've got leather, you turn it into a car seat, which turns into a car. So in effect, the whole item now becomes required. And there were declarations you've got to bit. I said it was a bit like a certificate of origin for goods. This is like an environmental certificate of origin for goods. Now, these were meant to be introduced from December this year for large companies, and I think it was May, June next year for small. But basically, everything's been put back 1 year because the European Union now is beginning to realise how complex this is. It is a very, very complex thing to keep the track of the origin of the goods, and there's about 7 if I remember correctly. But the article that we've done in November, BeForLink, does highlight this a lot more.
Thank you very much, Robert. So what we'll also do is we'll be reporting any updates on that on our website as well, won't we?
Yes. It's a tricky one actually because it's not British legislation, but it has an effect on British freight forwarders and their customers, and we will keep people advised in outline at least. And one of the things I would always be arguing and encouraging members to do is if you've got this sort of thing and you know about it, speak to your European partners and ask them how some of this regulation will be actually implemented.
Sure. Thank you again.
No trouble at all.
As Robert said, November's BeForLink will be available from the 1st of November, but please check out befor.org/news for the latest updates on this topic and many others. That's all for today's episode of BeForLink TV, your daily dose of industry information.